A boring lecture was going on in class. To pass the time, I dropped a message to my online dating partner, "Sis, please get me strawberries worth $5. Next time, I'll return it with interest on your neck." But brother, what happened the very next second blew my mind. The exact same message was flashing on the big screen in front of us. Our professor, who was known throughout the college as the Ice Queen professor, remained absolutely calm. Without any panic, she casually typed back a reply, "Babe, I'm working right now. Let's talk later." I was left completely stunned. Actually, what happened was that because of attendance and credits, my roommate was dragging me around to random lectures. Within 3 hours, 5 professors had come one by one to boast about their knowledge, and I was quietly sitting there getting bored. My back had started hurting from sitting so long. Just as the 6th professor took the stage, the entire audience suddenly burst into noise. My roommate also got excited and said, "Look, Professor Liu is here." I looked up and saw Professor Liu Rian standing in front of us, who was considered the youngest legendary professor in our department. At that moment he was just setting up his slides on stage, but man, he looked incredibly handsome. Then suddenly, my attention caught a red and green pattern on his screen. This was the exact same lucky pattern that I had recently suggested to my online partner. Seeing it instantly reminded me of my online girlfriend, and all the hot pictures she had sent last night started running through my mind. I couldn't resist and opened my chat box. Her last message was that she was going to work. I figured she must be busy with work right now, so why not have some fun and pull her leg? So, I quickly typed and sent the same message again, "Sis, please get me strawberries worth $5. Next time, I'll return it with interest on your neck." The moment the message was sent, a commotion broke out in the conference hall the very next second. The guy next to me pinched me hard and whispered, "Oh brother Linfin, look! Is this Professor Liu's boyfriend?" I snapped my gaze upward and was completely dumbfounded. The exact same message I had just sent was visible on the big screen. In front of us, Ruyan, who was looking for files on WeChat, seemed a bit surprised. But she immediately composed herself, closed the chat window, pulled out her phone, and started typing. The very next moment, a reply from my online partner arrived on my phone. "Babe, I'm working right now. Let's talk later." I turned completely into stone, while chaos broke out in the hall. Everyone was shouting, "I saw it." Her phone lit up. "This is so cute, man." Just then, my friend C turned to me and said, "Professor Liu's avatar looks exactly like yours. What a crazy coincidence, right?" To this, I gave a dry, fake laugh and said, "Oh yeah man, I didn't even notice." C didn't like my dull reaction and started chatting with others. But looking at Liu Rian standing on the stage, my heart was racing at the speed of a bullet train. Same lucky pattern, same profile picture, and the exact same message. Everything was screaming loudly that Liu Rian was my online girlfriend. And man, what an incredible contrast. Such a sophisticated professor in class and so bold on chat. As soon as the lecture ended, Liu Rian left the place in a hurry. While I was returning to the hostel, a flood of messages from Liu Rian hit my phone. "What happened, babe? Why aren't you replying? My work is done." "Yeah, so what were we talking about? What is my baby doing? Where did you vanish all of a sudden? I was in a huge rush back then, so I forgot to get you the $5 strawberries." Then suddenly, a notification popped up on my phone screen showing that I received a transfer of $50. I kept looking at her messages coming one after another, and to be honest, my brain stopped working. It was very difficult for me to imagine the girl who talked so boldly on chat behind Liu Rian's sophisticated and stern face. At the same time, I felt extremely embarrassed and didn't know what to reply. I was in this dilemma when a message arrived from Senior C, who was sitting next to me. "Linfin, Professor Su says his computer is acting up again and he is calling you to check it." Professor Su is my tutor. Ever since I fixed his slow-running computer last time, he would call me for every minor issue. I didn't want to show any negligence, so I left my chats there and headed straight to his office. But as soon as I reached the office, I was shocked. Liu Rian was sitting right there. She was at the desk directly in front of me, looking quietly at her phone with her head down, and she seemed to be in a pretty bad mood. I didn't have the courage to look at her much, so I averted my gaze and focused all my attention on fixing Professor Su's computer. As soon as the computer was fixed, Professor Su smiled, narrowing his eyes with joy, and said, "By the way, Professor Liu was just saying that she suddenly stopped receiving messages on WeChat. Could you take a look at her phone too?" I thought for a moment and instantly understood why Liu Rian wasn't getting messages. This problem could be fixed in a jiffy. But in front of Professor Su's smiling gaze, I had no choice, so I walked toward her desk. I deliberately changed my voice and said in a deep tone, "Professor Liu, Professor Su says your WeChat might be broken." Hearing my voice, Rian suddenly startled. She seemed a bit scared of me, stepped back abruptly to maintain distance, and said, No, it's fine." Actually, she was always a very polite and distant person with her colleagues in private, But at this moment, her behavior was absolutely perfect for me. Just as I was about to turn around and run away, Liu Ruiyan's gaze suddenly locked onto my hand. I was holding my phone, its screen was on, and a photo of a small puppy was set as the wallpaper. I instantly remembered that I had previously sent many photos of my dog to my online partner and had made it my wallpaper. Without wasting any time, I quickly stuffed the phone into my pocket and said, "Professor Liu, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Then Ruiyan suddenly spoke up, "Wait, can I see your wallpaper?" Hearing this, my heart thumped hard, wondering if she had recognized me. Unknowingly, I placed my hand on my pocket where the phone was, and my voice began to falter, "Maybe this wouldn't be right now." At this, Liu Ruiyan frowned slightly and asked, "What's the matter?" Without thinking, it slipped out of my mouth, "My wallpaper is very private." Liu Ruiyan thought for a moment, a slight crease appearing on her face. Then she said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trouble you. It's just that the puppy I just saw on your wallpaper looks exactly like the dog that once saved my life. That's why I just wanted to make sure. If you don't feel comfortable, you can show it by hiding half of the phone screen." I was stunned by her words, wondering when my dog had saved her life. But seeing such a deep longing in Liu Ruiyan's eyes to find that life-saving dog, I got a bit confused and pulled out my phone to show her. She just came a bit closer and looked at it for a moment, after which her facial expressions completely changed. When she looked back at me, a strange curiosity and hope were clearly visible in her eyes. She asked, "This is your puppy, right?" I immediately pulled my phone back and thought to myself, "Oh my love, what life-saving. She is definitely testing me." So, I immediately shook my head and said, "Absolutely not." I shook my head like crazy and my brain started racing at the speed of a bullet train as I lied, "Oh no, this is my brother's dog." Liu Ruiyan lowered her head in a bit of confusion and asked, "Your brother?" I immediately nodded in agreement and without making any sound, pulled out my phone. I quickly logged into my secondary account, dug out some chats I had had with my main ID, and said, "Yes, look at this. This is the same photo my brother sent me." At that moment, I pointed toward that edited photo of the puppy sent to my secondary ID so she could match it. I was mentally thanking God that I had a habit of using my secondary ID like a junkyard. Liu Ruiyan came closer to look and her eyes instantly lit up. She pointed at the avatar of my main ID and asked, "Is this your brother?" Hearing this, I sensed something was going wrong, so I immediately controlled the situation and said, "Yes, but to be honest, we don't really get along that well." But Liu Ruiyan became eager to shake hands with me and said, "Listen, can you give me your contact number? I might need your help in the future." To be honest, I absolutely did not want to give my number to Liu Ruiyan. But when she said that, her gaze went toward Professor Su standing nearby. Professor Su already had my main ID, and if Liu Ruiyan asked anyone else for my number, my secret would definitely be exposed. So, despite not wanting to, I said, yeah, sure, why not, Professor Liu, and reluctantly added her to my friend list using my secondary ID. I gave a fake smile, but as soon as I turned away, my face fell. Man, what is even going on? Although Liu Ruiyan listened to everything I said as my online partner, that was because she liked my online persona. If she found out that I am her student in real life and that she was transferring money to me like this, given her furious temper, she would absolutely blow her top. At that point, she wouldn't just leave me, she could make my life a living hell in college too. So, the best option would be to quietly break up with her myself, even though I felt a bit sad about it. While walking on the road, a flood of messages from Liu Ruiyan hit my phone again. "Babe, I just found out that one of my students is your brother's biological brother. What a crazy coincidence, right? He also keeps your puppy's photo as his wallpaper. There must be a lot of love between you two brothers. Oh babe, don't get me wrong, I just happened to see it suddenly. I wasn't spying on you on purpose. Why aren't you replying to me yet?" Right after this, I received a transfer of $2,000. Seeing her messages coming one after another sent a strange panic through my heart, so I immediately put my phone on Do Not Disturb mode. When I got home, I checked my secondary ID. Liu Ruiyan had dropped a message there too. "Linfin, can you talk to your brother right now?" After a while, I replied, "Not right now, Professor Liu." I thought she might calm down, but the very next second, it felt like an earthquake hit my phone. Liu Ruiyan fired 2 consecutive messages to my main ID in anger and panic. "Babe, is something wrong? Wait for me, I'm calling the police right now. I'll be there in just a moment." Man, it was too late now. If she called the police, my game would be over forever. Without wasting a single second, my hands trembling, I quickly typed to her, "Oh, nothing happened. Actually, I just fell asleep. I accidentally dozed off in the afternoon." Reading this, Liu Ruiyan breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Oh, thank goodness. Babe, you really scared me. Haven't you eaten anything yet? Accept the money quickly and go get something to eat. I was so terrified when you didn't reply to me today. Babe, you don't love me, do you? You don't want me, right?" Seeing her message caused a strange pain in my heart, as if someone had plunged a dagger into my chest. Liu Ruyan always took such good care of me, she was so caring, and on top of that, she spent money on me generously. Under such circumstances, breaking up with her out of nowhere would be terrible. But if I kept going on like this, how long could I hide the truth? The more I thought about it, the more miserable I became. My throat tightened, and 2 warm tears rolled down my cheeks. Just then, my roommate walked right past me, and seeing me cry, he was shocked. "Linfin, what's wrong with you, man?" When I looked at him, everything was a blur because of my tears. My roommate placed a serious hand on my shoulder and said, "Who's bothering you, brother?" I couldn't hold it back anymore, and sobbing I said, "Brother, if you found out that the person you're online dating is impossible to be with in real life, what would you do?" He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Is that all? Then just break up, man. She's just a girl. And with the way you look, you can get anyone." But then he remembered something, changed his tone, and asked, "By the way, did she ever spend money on you? I've heard that some people start asking for their money back after a breakup." I thought about this. Liu Ruyan had indeed spent a lot of money on me. But even if I didn't accept all her money, I didn't think she was the kind of girl with such cheap thinking. Seeing me lost in thought, my friend patted my shoulder again and said, "Hey, don't worry about the money. Just don't be too harsh on her when you break up." Listening to my roommate, I convinced myself that I shouldn't be bitter with her. Tossing and turning in bed, I gathered my courage and sent her a message. "Babe, if we break up one day, will you hate me?" I was just about to send this when Liu Ruyan's message arrived. "Do you want to see a hot photo of me today? I thought you really liked the photos I sent last night." With a heavy heart, I replied, "Sis, stop sending photos now. I don't like these things." She immediately sent a question mark emoji and wrote, "But you were so happy last night." I closed my eyes and wrote, "That was in the past. I've changed now, sis." Liu Ruyan sent a crying emoji, and after that, there was no message from her for a long time. Then I checked my secondary ID and saw that Liu Ruyan had reached there just as expected. She had written, "Classmate Heianshin, can you ask your brother about his girlfriend? Your brother is in a very bad mood today." I thought, girlfriend? Do I even have a girlfriend? Yeah, right, ask him yourself and you'll find out. Suddenly an idea struck me. I sent a message from my secondary ID to my main ID, setting up a drama, and asked, "Brother, do you have a girlfriend?" Then I replied from the main ID, "No, brother, honestly I don't. Why would I lie to you? Is there really no one in your sight?" After that, I told Ruyan from my secondary ID, "Professor Liu, he says he doesn't have a girlfriend." Hearing this, Ruyan remained quiet for a long time, God knows what she was thinking. Much later, I received a message on my main ID, "Babe, you don't like me anymore, do you?" Reading this caused a sharp sting in my heart for a moment, but it vanished quickly. Acting as normal as possible, I typed, "A little bit. It feels like you've grown bored. It's been over a year, don't you get bored?" She replied instantly, "No, absolutely not. Have I made a mistake? Please don't leave me." I felt terrible again. But if I dragged this relationship out with her any further, it would become a massive mental torture for both of us. So, hardening my heart, I typed, "I'm sorry, a breakup would be for the best," and blocked Liu Ruyan. The moment I blocked her, I started feeling completely empty inside because this was a one-sided journey where Liu Ruyan was never going to find out that her secret romance was with her own student. After that, I tried to live my life normally like before, but unconsciously, I would get desperate to share every little detail of my day with Liu Ruyan, only to suddenly remember, oh, I've blocked her. Liu Ruyan even tried to contact me through my secondary ID, but when I clearly stated from there too that he had rejected her, she stopped messaging on my secondary ID as well. Perhaps she had finally accepted the reality. Then one day, Professor Su called me again to fix his computer. While I was fixing the settings there, my eyes accidentally fell on his phone while he was talking to someone. "What? Which hospital? I'll be right there." I asked in a panic. "What happened, Professor Su? Who's sick?" He replied, "Professor Liu. You know her too. I don't know what has gotten into her for the past few days." Startled, I asked, What happened to Professor Liu?" He said, "She completely stopped eating and drinking for the last few days, and she just fainted and collapsed at home." Hearing this, it felt as if the sky had come crashing down on me. She stopped eating and drinking? Did all of this happen because of me? Before I could ask him for more details, Professor Su grabbed his bag and rushed out of there in a hurry. Sitting in Professor Su's empty office, I felt suffocated. I waited for almost 2 hours, then couldn't stop myself and called Professor Su. After a long time, he picked up the phone in a very exhausted voice and I said, "Professor, I'm Linfin speaking. I just wanted to ask how Professor Liu is doing now. A relative of mine works in that same hospital. Maybe I can be of some help." Professor Su said, "Thank you, Linfin, but everything is fine now." This silly girl had her heart broken, because of which her sugar level plummeted completely, and on top of that, she already has a stomach ailment. So she'll have to stay in the hospital for a few days. Taking the opportunity, I immediately said, "Professor, can I go there to take care of Professor Liu? I've taken care of my mother in the hospital before, so I have plenty of experience with this." Professor Su replied, "Oh, if you want to help, that's wonderful. Besides, I have an important lecture this afternoon. Linfen, I trust you completely. She is my biological niece and is only 4 or 5 years older than you, so don't treat her like a professor over there." This news made the ground slip out from under my feet. Liu Rian was actually Professor Su's niece. No wonder Professor Su was so deeply worried. Following the address given by Professor Su, I reached the hospital without wasting any time. The moment I stepped into the ward, I saw Liu Rian lying on the bed with an 4 drip attached to her hand. She looked incredibly weak and pale, with fresh tears floating in her eyes. I quietly walked up to her, took an orange from the basket on the side table, and said, "Professor Liu, my brother told me everything. He said the breakup happened only because your views didn't match. This absolutely doesn't mean there's any flaw in you, and he really didn't want to see you in this condition. He told me to tell you to take good care of yourself." Liu Rian looked at the orange in my hand as if she suddenly remembered something. Then, she picked up a plum from the fruit basket, held it out to me and said, "Here, you have some too." Shaking my head, I declined, "Thank you, but I don't like plums at all." Hearing my words, she paused for a second. She looked at me with total concentration and said, "You look exactly like your brother. Neither of you likes plums, and both of you peel off the white fibers on top of an orange before eating it." Man, those were the personal habits I had shared with my online girlfriend during our chats, and she remembered every single detail. My hands began to tremble upon hearing this, and to change the subject I said, "Oh, really? Hearing you say that makes it seem so." She said, "Your voice sounds a lot like his too." Hearing this, I immediately panicked and tried to make my voice deeper. Not at all. But Liu Rian sat up on the bed as if she had suddenly gained a surge of strength, and said, "Don't try to make your voice deep." Liu Rian's deep eyes stared at me as if she wanted to see right through me. Then, completely out of nowhere, she asked, "Why did you make a photo of your brother's puppy your profile picture?" I said, "Because I thought it was very cute, that's why I put it." After that, I sat beside Liu Rian for a while with a trembling heart. She kept asking me strange questions one after another, making me feel incredibly nervous inside. That night, when I returned to college, I got a phone call from Professor Su. "Linfen, I've got to hand it to you, man. You really do have good experience. That silly girl hadn't eaten anything all day, but now she's finally hungry. She was saying she only feels good when you sit and eat with her, otherwise she doesn't feel like eating anything. Can you take some time out to visit her over the next few days?" I could never dare to refuse anything Professor Su asked, especially when this whole mess had started because of me. But only one thought was racing through my mind. Why did Liu Rian say that to Professor Su? Has she really figured something out? The more I thought, the faster my heart beat. When I arrived again with food for Liu Rian, she knitted her brows the moment she saw me and asked, "What happened to you?" I immediately stepped back slightly to maintain distance and said, "Oh, it's nothing, just haven't slept enough, I'm fine. Besides, I need to focus on my studies too." She asked, "You'll come every day, right?" I told her that Professor Su had asked me to come for 3 days. Hearing this, Liu Rian lifted her head and just kept staring at me without saying a word, then with tears filling her eyes, she said, "I'm in no mood to eat food." Seeing her condition immediately melted my heart, and I said, "All right, let's make it a week, I'll come for a week." Only then did a sweet and rare smile appear on her face. I sat right beside her to make sure she ate properly. While eating, her gaze kept drifting toward the adjacent bed where a couple was showing affection to each other very lovingly. The girl on that bed was saying, "My hand is hurt, can't you even do this much for me?" The boy smiled helplessly and started feeding her one bite at a time with a spoon. Liu Rian stared blankly at that girl's hands, then she looked at her own hand, and a strange expression came into her eyes. The next day when I went to visit her, holy cow, Liu Rian's right hand was actually injured. That hand of hers, which used to look so slender and beautiful, was now wrapped in a thick layer of bandages. The bandage was wrapped so heavily that it looked a bit strange and funny. Terrified, I asked, "What happened to this?" Liu Rian looked at her hand and said, "Yesterday after you left, I wanted to peel an apple, but by mistake." I immediately sat near her bed and asked, "Can you move this hand?" She tried and said, "No, it's not working properly, and the doctor has forbidden me from using my right hand. But I'm not used to working with my left hand, what do I do now?" As she spoke, her voice grew even softer, and her eyes remained glued to the food bowl. I said, "Well, that means I'll have to feed you with my own hands now." She said, "But that will cause you a lot of trouble." "Thank you so much, you are very nice, classmate Hanshin." She didn't catch the sarcasm in my tone and just kept staring at me with grateful eyes. But for some reason, I could clearly see a strange hope and happiness in her eyes. I opened the bowl a bit clumsily, held the spoon awkwardly, and brought a spoonful of porridge close to Liu Rian's lips. She smiled with joy and her eyes began to sparkle. She kept gazing at me intently, and feeling uncomfortable in this bizarre situation, I avoided her eyes. She ate each spoonful of porridge with great relish, and within a few minutes, she polished off the entire large bowl. I thought, alright, it's finally over now, but she shook her head, refusing to stop. By the third day, I had grown so accustomed to feeding porridge to Liu Rian that I started feeding her as if she were a giant cabbage. In front of Liu Rian's deep, absorbing gaze, I gathered all my courage and brought another spoon close to her mouth. Suddenly, a loud sound of things crashing to the floor came from the room's doorway. I turned around to see a whole crowd of people standing at the door, God knows since when, including my old roommates and other students who had come with gifts and flowers to check on the patient. I was so lost in my own zone feeding her porridge, but at this moment, all of them were staring at me with their mouths wide open. The fruit basket in their hands had already fallen to the floor. When I realized what was happening, my hand was still stuck midair in the exact position of feeding porridge to Liu Rian. My roommate's brain worked the fastest. He quickly pushed everyone back, slammed the door shut, and his voice came from outside. I'm sorry, brother, we disturbed you too. Seriously, I'm so sorry. Even though the door was closed, the walls of that hospital room were so thin that I could clearly hear the gossip and whispering going on outside. I froze right there, not knowing where to sit. I looked helplessly at Liu Rian, who was sitting there biting her tongue after hearing the comments outside, her entire face turning as red as a tomato out of embarrassment. Hesitantly, I said, if you want, I can go out and tell them the truth and explain everything. At this, Liu Rian immediately grabbed my wrist and said, what will you explain? They are just guessing on their own, there's no need to explain anything to anyone. Or does this matter bother you a lot? I immediately shook my head no. Seeing this, she breathed a sigh of relief and said, all right then, let them keep whatever misunderstanding they want. But then, perhaps realizing how strange her words sounded, she quickly corrected herself and added, I mean, don't stress over nothing, this is all just a misunderstanding. But the result of this misunderstanding was that whenever I tried to clarify things back at the hostel, my roommates would bombard me with sharp words. One friend said, Linfin, when you were dating Professor Liu, at least I was present there. Be glad no one else saw your face. I repeatedly shook my head in denial. Oh no brother, it's nothing like that, I didn't do anything. Professor Su sent me to take care of her. To which they said, oh come on, don't play innocent with us. At that moment, Professor Liu's eyes were completely locked onto you. How dare you say nothing is going on between you two? Do you even know how many people are crazy about Professor Liu's beauty? There's a long line from our entire department to the foreign language department, but she only let you come close to her. If you don't propose to her even now, I'll spit on you. Anyway, for me, successfully getting Liu Rian discharged from the hospital and taking her home was the biggest task and blessing in the world. A week later, Liu Rian was finally discharged from the hospital. While leaving, I casually asked the doctor about her health along the way. The doctor just slapped his forehead and said, oh brother, that patient was absolutely fine. She only needed glucose for 2 days, but she herself insisted that she felt very weak and needed to stay under doctor's observation for a whole week. Today's young girls, man, God knows who likes staying in a hospital. Watching the doctor walk away shaking his head and muttering, I stood frozen, my mind spinning. Liu Rian wanted to stay in the hospital on purpose? What on earth was she cooking up? Could it be that she was trying to trap me in her web because my brother broke her heart, so maybe she wanted to take revenge on me? The more I thought about it, the deeper my suspicion grew. My suspicion was now turning into a certainty, so I decided that I wouldn't attend a single class of hers anymore. But shortly after making this decision, a message popped up on my secondary ID from Liu Rian, classmate Heianshin, come to my office for a minute. When I reached her office, only the two of us were there, staring at each other intently. The atmosphere there had become extremely tense. She pointed at the computer screen and broke the ice herself. I just received this. It has the registration details for the next semester, and your class will have to choose this course of mine. I was left completely stunned. Why was she telling me all this? Did she really want to pin all the blame on me? Seeing me panicked, she smiled and said, don't be so nervous, I was just letting you know casually. I nodded in agreement, stammering. Then she suddenly took a cold breath and said, to be honest, I miss your brother a lot. Without him, my life feels completely colorless and dull. Hearing this makes my anxiety shoot up. I asked, do you like him that much? She said, yes, I love him very much. Is there any chance your brother would consider coming back to me? I am ready to do anything. He must have had his own reasons, but I mean, if your brother was breaking up due to status or some other relationship gap, couldn't he have consulted me just once? Meanwhile, a massive storm was raging inside me. She knew all of this, but still, I tried my best to keep myself calm and said, I don't know about that, I can't interfere in his decisions. She said, I want a favor from you. Pass everything I just said to your brother and somehow arrange a meeting between me and your brother just once. I thought about stalling the conversation for now, but right then my eyes fell on Liu Ruyan, who was pointing her finger at the next semester's course opening order on the computer. Her clear hint was that if I agreed, there would be no problem for me in the next semester's course. So, I immediately said yes. Man, is this a joke? Everyone knows that passing Professor Liu's class is like chewing iron pellets. Her academic standards are incredibly high. If she was showing me this, it was a direct threat. Now, obviously, I couldn't go meet Liu Ruyan myself, but luckily I had a cousin. I begged him for a full 5 hours, and only then did he agree to meet Liu Ruyan in my place. Liu Ruyan herself had fixed the venue for the meeting, a very luxurious French restaurant. Hiding myself, I sat just a short distance away from them so I could keep an eye on her every move. When my brother arrived there, Ruyan looked up with a smile, but the very next split second, that smile froze right on her face. But that was only for a moment, after which they both started talking very happily. I kept watching them from the side, and they just chatted away without stopping. Out of fear, I had completely twisted the small leather cap I was holding in my hand. When the meeting ended and my brother came over and patted my back, only then did I breathe easy. There was an incredible excitement on his face and he said, "Oh brother, where did you find such an amazing girl on the internet, man? Break up? Why do you want to break up, brother? I will fully help you move things forward." But man, she didn't talk about a patch-up at all, she was just talking about normal everyday things. It didn't feel like she came for a patch-up at all. I thought about this a little and asked, "Are you serious? You aren't lying, are you?" He said, "Hey, I'm saying it seriously. I really like such a beautiful girl too. Come on, now go and tell her to remove your number from the danger zone." He immediately agreed and turned to leave, but right then a voice came from behind, "Professor Liu, you're still here?" I snapped my head back and the ground slipped from beneath my feet. Liu Ruyan was standing just a short distance right behind us. Looking straight at me, she said, "Classmate Heianshin, just how long do you intend to keep up this act?" After apologizing to my cousin and sending him off, Liu Ruyan took me to a private cabin in the restaurant, where I went and sat quietly on a chair. I sat there silently, thinking about saving my own life. She called the waiter and said very casually, "Bring my favorite dishes." Then she asked me, "Do you want to eat anything else?" I shook my head like crazy, signaling no. Then she said, "To be honest, the entire time in the restaurant just now, I was only watching you out of the corner of my eye." I said, "Really?" But I didn't understand why I only saw him talking to you so cheerfully. Seeing me quiet, she lowered her head, looked closely at me and said, "You really don't want to talk to me, do you?" I looked at the wine glass in my hand and, giving a slight, helpless laugh, said, "Oh, now that you've found out, if you don't want to tell me, then don't tell me." She said, I want to tell you everything connected to you. When I saw those little habits of yours in the hospital, I started having doubts right then. After that, I asked my uncle for your WeChat number." Oh boy, at that moment I wished a hole would open up in the ground so I could swallow myself into it. So that meant she knew everything since the day she went to the hospital. No wonder she was so watchful of me over the next few days. Panicking, I started apologizing to her. Bowing down almost in a crying state, I said, "I'm sorry, I had no intention of deceiving you. I promise you I won't tell anyone this secret of yours." But Liu Ruyan held my hand firmly and, looking into my eyes with great earnestness, said, "You don't need to apologize to me at all. And the secret you're talking about, everyone found out that I have a boyfriend on that day of the conference. I only hid him from everyone because it was an online relationship." Terrified, I asked, "So you won't fail me?" She took a helpless breath and said, "Who said I'm going to fail you?" I asked, "Then what you said that day, that I'd have to choose your course next semester?" She said, "I just wanted to say that we would meet each other often next semester. I thought that when I said this, you would put aside these identities of ours and think about meeting me. If you weren't ready to meet me, I would have begged you, but who knew your brother would come instead of you?" I just kept listening to her like a statue, offering no reaction. She continued, "Uncle told me that you had come forward yourself to the hospital and taken the responsibility of looking after me. I thought this was proof that you love me. Then why did you break up with me? This changed behavior of yours started from the very day of that conference. I can only think that you were there that day too, and you found out that I am the girl you were dating online. Therefore, the only reason for breaking up with me could be that I didn't live up to your expectations in real life. You really liked the pictures sent by me, which means there's nothing wrong with my physical appearance, so the matter strictly boils down to this identity of mine. She analyzed everything so accurately that I was left stunned. It felt as if she knew everything down to the last word. Liu Ruyan, as if gathering all her strength, asked the final question. Genshin, do you not like this relationship of a professor and a student? Without wasting a single moment, I replied immediately, no, it's not like that. She asked, then what is the matter? I said, I feel like you won't like me. Professor Liu, do you know how many people in college are crazy just to catch a glimpse of you? And do you know that behind that online account was an ordinary student like me? Will you still like me even after knowing this? Hearing this, she was completely taken aback. A strange feeling of helplessness and gloom started taking roots inside me, making me feel that my fear was right. But Liu Ruyan immediately shot back. Do you consider yourself an ordinary student? You are the president of the student association, you rank in the top 3 every year in the engineering department, and you've won 2 gold medals in subject competitions. You are my uncle's most favorite and promising student. Do you call that an ordinary student? And do you not even realize yourself how handsome you are? From the very beginning, I fell in love with that version of yours that had no pretense behind it. No matter how you are, I will love only you. And as far as the professor-student relationship is concerned, as long as it's you in front of me, it makes no difference to me. In fact, I am very happy. Hearing this, my facial expressions froze completely. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out of my throat. Astonished, I said, you've dug up my entire history. At this, she was suddenly startled and said, oh no, I didn't do any spying. All of this was told to me by my uncle. He likes you very much. Hearing these words of hers, the lost confidence inside me suddenly surged back, but still hesitating, I said, but in college, your image has always been like a strict and quiet ice goddess. Surely you wouldn't want people to find out about us. At this, she smiled and said, when I used to chat with you, I was exactly who I am in reality. I didn't create any fake image. It's just that I have no interest in other useless things. But with you, it's different. If you want me to change my lifestyle, I am completely ready for that too. Ultimately, Ruyan managed to convince me, and I removed her from my block list. The moment I unblocked her, holy cow, a transfer of $50 hit my phone instantly. I was totally baffled and asked, what are you doing? She liquefied into a laugh and said, just so I can check whether you've really unblocked me or not. When we broke up, I tried checking several times by sending money. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I asked to flip the topic. Alright, so what is our relationship now? But before I could think of anything, she transferred money even faster than before and said, you were the one who said to get you strawberries worth $5 and next time you'll return it with interest on my neck. Now the time has come for you to fulfill that promise of yours. Flushing with intense embarrassment, I said, oh man, I don't even have a face left to show, but you've transferred way too much money. At this, she said playfully, now I want you to return 100 times that amount to me. And before we knew it, the next semester arrived. Just as Liu Ruyan had said before, we had to choose her course class. In the very first class, she came and stood on the stage. After reading out a full 3 pages of her research experience, she talked about her marital status in a very casual manner. She smiled and added especially, by the way, currently I am not married, but I am very happy with my boyfriend. Saying this, her smiling eyes turned secretly straight toward me. I was sitting completely tucked away in the corner of the second row from the back, keeping my head down so our eyes wouldn't meet. Just then, my roommate pulled my shirt again and whispered, hey Shoch, where are you looking, man? Look how happily Professor Liu is laughing today. Before, she always used to stay very serious, but it seems she has taken quite a liking to our class. I looked up very carefully, and my eyes locked directly with hers. Instantly, I got a very bad feeling and man, my fear turned out to be absolutely right. The moment time came for questions and answers in class, she called out very sweetly from the podium, classmate Genshin, please stand up. In that single class, I had to stand up more times than I did in the entire previous semester combined. A year later, my graduation was complete. Now, that hidden online romance between Liu Ruyan and me was over, and we had stepped into real life. Both of us were openly shopping while holding hands when Liu Ruyan suddenly took a deep, relaxed breath and said, I am so happy, you know. At night, as we passed by a bakery, an announcement was playing on the radio there stating that the Mid-Autumn Festival was around the corner. Buy mooncakes with your special someone and celebrate this romantic moonlit night. Liu Ruyan stopped right there. She looked up at the sky, where a dazzlingly bright moon was shining with full splendor. She looked at me and said, Genshin, you know, I always used to think that the moon is very pure and beautiful, and its moonlight is scattered everywhere, but in the entire sky, there is only one moon. Before I could follow her gaze to get a proper look at the sky, I suddenly felt a very warm and sweet sensation on my cheek. She had kissed my cheek. She leaned close to me and whispered softly in my ear, Genshin, you are my moon. And under the shadow of that beautiful moonlit night, Our hands intertwined with each other grew even tighter, and our fingers locked perfectly together.